It's yours truly, the infamous DJ Rout 313, known as the Remake Guru, back with another hot tutorial. This was a special request, and basically, how do you route and set up, which was the rolling Integra 7, all right, which is a sound module, which works similar to a drum machine or a keyboard, synthesizer or whatnot, hardware, all right. So the first thing that you want to do is actually route the hardware to your interface. So in this case, the Integra 7 has 8 outputs on it, okay? So, which means you gotta have an interface that has enough real estate on it as far as ins and outs for you to be able to connect your outputs if you want to split the track. So if you want to track out, the Integra 7 as far as the sounds, you can stem out 8 different channels, okay? And you can do it in a stereo pair, where it'd be 4 pair. Once you do that and connect that to the inputs of your interface, or say for instance, you just have a regular Scarlett 2i2 or something like that, and you only have 2 inputs, all right, just disconnect your mic from mic 1, as far as if you have your microphone hooked up to it, and just take the output 1 and channel 1 and 2 from the Integra 7, or from whatever type of sound module or hardware synth that you're trying to hook up to it. It could be a motif, it can be a Triton. Take channels 1 and 2 output of the main output of that particular hardware, and you want to connect it to the inputs of your interface, or whatever type of A to D converter, analog to digital converter that you're using. After you connect that, all right, that would be a stereo pair. So you can route and use all 8. Sometimes I don't separate the channels. I would just use the stereo pair. I will record them back in one by one. So in this case, this is how I have it, like for a real life scenario. So for people that really don't have, 20 inputs or 40 inputs or 100 inputs, and 100 outputs, whatever, as far as with their interface or the ADD converter, they can just take 2 channels and get whatever sound that they're trying to get out of their hardware synth back into the actual DAW system. Once you connect that, make sure that you have your USB connected to Integra 7. You have to have that hooked up in order for it to communicate with the computer. All right. On a Mac, you have to download the drivers and the software or whatnot. So once you connect that, you don't necessarily like the old Triton. It has a 5-pin MIDI to where you would have to hook it up with a MIDI or USB converter, on the other side, the way you can hook it up to the USB hub on your computer, whether if you use a Mac or PC. But in this case, we're on Mac FL20. So after you got all of that hooked up from the actual hardware module or synth, you want to be able to go into Flstudio, go to options, go to MIDI setup, and then you're going to see your Integra or whatever synth that you have hooked up through the USB, all right, for it to be controlled or to send a conversation back and forth to the computer, all right, over the USB. So once you see that, guess what? It's just like having a regular controller hooked up to it, all right? But in this case, the Integra 7 is not a controller. It can be controlled, and it can control something else through like a MIDI keyboard or whatever, okay, or a hardware synth that has keys. All right, so basically the Integra 7 is a keyboard without the keys, if that makes sense. All right, this will be deactivated. All right, so you will have to enable this for channel 1. That way you can send MIDI notes on channel 1, all right, globally. All right, the Integra 7 will be able to control through a MIDI keyboard, all right, channel 1 globally. So that's on any track. All right. Then after you do that, import that, of course you can set up your velocity and your release to where it be real. You know what I'm saying? Or you can set it up to where, you know, you can add some modulation or whatever with that, you know, to give it a little bit of more flexibility with you playing the chords or how you play it. So it'll be more of a real feel when you adjust these. Okay, so after you do that with the MIDI, you want to go up here to the output. We're going to send the notes back to the Integra 7. All right, so basically it's going to play back whatever is being triggered here. It's going to play it back. All right, and I got it synced to port 2, and that's basically how I got it hooked up. If I go to my MIDI setup, you should be able to see the Integra. Let's go here. On Mac, they have a MIDI setup, so you can go to it and see. So the Integra 7 is here, so you don't even have to route any virtual wires or anything like that. So that's already set up. So once again, you would just route it to whatever channel that you want to route it to. So in this case, I got it routed to port 2. Only reason for that is because I got the Triton routed to port 1. So I don't want to confuse the two. So if I'm sending out MIDI notes on port 1 with a piano being played going to the Triton, you know what I'm saying? I don't want it on 2 because now we're going to trigger the Integra 7. So once you have all of that connected like that and hit your master sync, all right, that way it will send the actual beat clock or whatever to the hardware device to control it. All right. Now, once you set that up and you got the physical connection set up with your USB and your audio cables, which carrying your audio back into the DAW system. All right, once you got that together and all of this connected, then we should be able to get off into setting it up with a MIDI out. So you will go to MIDI out, and in this case, mine's go to port 2. All right, and which is once again the Integra 7. So mind you, whatever you set this on is what you have to set your MIDI out on, if that makes sense. All right, so this is going out to port 2. This is sending the MIDI notes out to port 2, which is going to the Integra 7 over the USB. We want to set our MIDI out to be able to control that. All right, to port 2. We're gonna keep it on channel 1 because once again, we want all our devices on channel 1. That way we can control whatever software instrument or hardware instrument that we got plugged in into our computer or DAW system. So after once again, after you have that set up, these are your channels that you can play on the device. All right, so let's go here. Let's see here. See if I play. I'm just playing on the actual. Let's close this out. I'm just using the typewriter keyboard just for a demonstration. I can hit the Triton keys if I want to, but. So basically, that is the Integra 7. All right, those are sounds from the Integra 7, which is being triggered by MIDI out. All right, I can also change the channel. So that's channel 1, because mind you, most of the old school synthesizers or something that's similar like the vintage synthesizers or workstations, hardware workstations, they have 16 channels, 16 MIDI channels. All right, so which means you can synchronize 16 different sounds or patterns. All right, so in this case, that's channel 1 going to the piano, which on this I have a set up. I have my own custom set, live set. on the Integra. So this is channel 2, which is what is it? I can't really see on the hardware. It sounds like a Rode key with a little wah-wah effect. Alright, now after we got all of that, we can go to the next. Once again, this is 16 different MIDI channels that you can control. All of this is coming from the Integra 7. You know, all the way up to 16. And so forth. Alright, so let's record some music. And I want to do it on channel 14 because I like that sound. So we're going to print it to our actual playlist, to our piano roll. Alright, go back. Alright, so as you can see, that's the Integra sound that's being played. And guess what? We can switch. We can go through the MIDI channel. That way we can find what we want. Especially if we got a live set up like this. You got your live set programmed on the Integra 7. It's very useful. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So once again, all that's just by sending it out to port 2. So once again, say for instance, if you had an MPC hooked up to it or something, and you want to control that, it will be the same thing. You just put it on whatever port that you want to send it out to from FL, and then you can control it however you want to and play whatever, up to 16 different channels. You know what I'm saying? And that's just with MIDI out once again. So here's the thing. It's always a catch to this shit. The catch is you have to record all of this stuff back into your DAW system. So you're hearing that, right? Now watch this. How are we hearing that? The only way we hearing that is because, let's go Stroll this over here. All right, that's my mic. As you can see, that's me talking. I'm coming in through the A to D. Let's play this. All right, we hearing this live. As you can see, I just muted that. So you can't hear it no more. So basically, in a normal circumstance, these will be muted because you will hear the sound from your DAW, all right? Your inputs coming into your DAW. All right, so here we go. Let's minimize this. You gotta get your sound back in there, and we gotta print it back in. So you're gonna have to route that particular whatever insert that you have up here that you want to route it to. Say for instance, we can go to, say for instance, you got a full session, all right, and you done did probably about 20 tracks. You done added about 20 tracks. So between 20 and 30, all right, will be our inputs. So as far as our hardware inputs, we will want to bring our sound back in. So what we will do is we will go up here, and in my case, it's coming in input 8 at 7 and 8. All right. So guess what? This is just enable this track right here to record. This whole track is officially been enabled to record, and as you can see, virtually routed to the master out. So that's the input. You have to have the input of whatever type of interface. You have to pull that up, whatever channel that you have it on. So if you're just using a basic 2-channel or 4-channel interface, you will pull up, of course, input channels 1 and 2. If it's a stereo effect, 9 times out of 10, it will be a stereo pair, channel 1 and 2, coming up out of the synthesizer that you're using, the hardware synth. So in my case, I got more real estate, so I can just come in mono, or I can come in stereo. And in this case, I want to come in stereo because I want the mid and the sides. I want the stereo effect of the sounds coming from the Integra. You can also come in digitally, all right, because Integra has a digital output. So I can run over a RCA cable, digital, straight to my A to D converter. Now your A to D converter has to have a digital input in order for you to be able to have this type of function. All right. Now in this case, I don't want to run the Integra on my particular digital SpeedIF channel 1 and 2. The reason being is because I'm using that as a loopback for my screencasting. So that channel was already taken up. A regular, 2i2 or whatever, Focusrite, 2-channel in, 2-channel out. I will disconnect my microphone out of channel 1, and then I will plug up the left and right from the output of my hardware synth right into my A to D converter, right into my interface. When you come into Pro Tools, whatever DAW that you're using, in this case Flstudio, you will go to channel 1 and 2. As you can see, stereo, but you can also do mono as well. So same rules apply if you want to run your microphone into Flstudio. All right. So in my case, I have it routed. I have the Integra routed to channel 7 and 8. So that's where we're going to go. All right. So as you can see, now I can actually go here instead of hearing it in real time and turn this off and mute these again. All right. That way you won't hear the double effect from the real time. All right. Because I'm over Thunderbolt anyway, so it's going to be as close as possible to real time anyway. They really don't have too much latency. So all right, and that's just stereo 1 and 2 coming right back into channels 7 and 8. Whatever you put the input on, you know, what you would bring in as far as the input go, as far as the signal. All right. And in any form of mixing, just like we do in music, all right, this is the creative side. So see how we got a healthy signal? You know what I'm saying? Healthy signal. So we not going all the way up here, all right, when we're recording. Once you got your gain staging and all of that stuff correctly, and in this case, I have everything running through an actual analog mixing console. So I'm sending a bus straight there, and then I can actually control it from my external mixing console. And but in your case, if you have a regular setup, you can also do the same thing. Just turn down your preamp. That's all. Turn your microphone preamp down, and turn like where you had a mic plugged up to, there's a volume. There should be a volume there, and that's a preamp. All right, and you can turn those down physically, and then you'll be able to see coming in if you're too loud. All right, you want to be like halfway, unless you're using drums or something like that. You can be up a little bit more, probably negative 12. We hitting over here about negative 12. Yeah. That's a sweet spot coming into a DAW. As far as max, that's what you want to peak at coming in. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be too loud. All right. That way, when you record the track, which I don't think this is going to let me do, because this is the demo software, I really don't use FL anymore. But what you would do is hit record, all right, and it will print back on here. And guess where it would take it to? Your playlist. And you will be able to see the actual wave file come up, and you will be able to edit it or do whatever that you want to do with it, whether if it's off or late or anything like that. If you have latency issues, you know, then you will have to drag it back or whatnot. But other than that, that's how you set it up and record it right back into the DAW system. And it will actually print it here. Let's see. I might do it. All right, now let's see here. So in my case, it's not going to do it because I'm using the demo software of Flstudio. But just like how I just recorded it, it would have printed the file right here, and you would have been able to see it. And it will also would have gave you on the step sequencer, which is what you see. It actually did record it. This is the recording of it. And then you would just route this to whatever channel you want to route it to and mix it. All right. Okay, I would stay away from this. If anything, just bring it up. Turn this up or bring this up. All right. You can always bring it up. You can never bring it down. That's the thing. So now, guess what? You can take it and drag it to your playlist if you want to do that. But if this wasn't the demo version, it would have printed it to the playlist as I was recording instead of printing it to the step sequencer only. Okay. Now, the Integra 7 also has, let's see here. Let's take this off. It also has an app, like a, it will work like a VST. So what I mean by that is I can go up here and let's go and add it. So it's the Integra Editor. All right, Integra 7 Editor. And what this is, it allows all types of changes as far as physically to the unit right from this app right here. So this will be a live set or whatever that you have programmed on your in your live set. It will let you know what type of sounds you have up there, all of that. You can adjust your effects. You know, it's so much stuff that you can do right here on the screen versus touching the unit. They do have an app for the iPhone, I believe, but for people that do not own an iPhone and use an Android or something, some other type of phone, you can just use this here, the Integra 7 editor. All right, and it will work like a VST. Now here's the thing. So for instance, if I wanted to just pull this up, and you see it's looking like a VST, all right, it has no sound in it because it's actually controlling the hardware unit. So don't get it twisted. This is not a real VST. This is just a controller to make you think the Integra is working like a VST, basically. That way you don't have to touch the unit. All right, so you will have to put this on the additional channel. Don't route it to the mixer or anything like that. This is just to control your hardware synth. That's it. And how you would do that is you will go up here, you will hit read. All right, once you hit read, it will actually read everything on your synth, on your hardware synth. So in my case, if I hit read, it will set up everything that I have in my live set. All right, from how I got the actual mixer set up, the volume control, the pans, everything. All right, if anything soloed, if I have something routed to any of the 8 outputs, you will be able to see all of that. And once again, you have 8 different parts in the set. I mean 16 different parts in the set. All right, so you can split them up in 8s. You can put your instruments here as far as your melody instruments, and you can go from 9 through 16 with your drums. I mean, you can get really crazy, you know what I'm saying? And these are real natural sounding instruments that sound like people are really playing them. All right, so that's the difference between a software instrument and a hardware synth. All right, you got to think about it. A plug-in may cost you the most expensive plug-in as far as for software synths probably cost you about anywhere from $300 or $500. You know, an analog synth will cost you anywhere from $500 to $5,000. You understand what I'm saying? So you got way more quality that you're paying for. You get what you pay for. Now you can get real close with the digital software, like the Nexus. They have Contact, which has very, very, very good samples from real instruments. You know what I'm saying? That has been mic'd up with real state-of-the-art microphones and running through all type of analog gear to make it have that real sound as if someone is playing it for you, which is actually how the real analog synths are created. They're samples, but they're super high quality samples. Some of them come in 24-bit, some of them come you know, probably HD, depending on what type of hardware synth that you have. You know what I'm saying? But they're very high quality sound, so that makes a big difference. And then it's just something about something being plugged up to the wall with power running into it. It just gives it some type of grit or analog distortion, harmonics or whatever, that just creates a thicker sound, a bigger sound, more warmer sound. So this is why I use hardware synths and will prefer them basically over any type of you know, even Contact. I love Contact, but you will have to have some of the, you know, the good expansions, like the motif expansion, the real motif expansion, the Roland Phantom expansion. You will have to have some real good expansions to actually compete with the hardware synths with that. The Omnisphere is another good one, you know, but once again, it's nothing like the old analog vintage gear. You know what I'm saying? So that concludes this tutorial. I will hit read, but for some reason, by this being a demo version, to sync it up, it will not give me the full features of this. So I normally use Logic. I don't use Flstudio anymore. I'm using Logic and Pro Tools. Actually, Pro Tools predominantly now, because now I'm seeing that everything have to go back to Pro Tools, because I'm mixing Pro Tools and mastering Pro Tools, and sometimes Logic. So I just go on to create the beats in Pro Tools, and you know, every now and then I might come over here on FL and mess around. Every now and then. And I haven't really gave FL20 a chance at all. I just been Pro Tools crazy in Logic. So once again, that concludes this video. It's probably another way to route this particular the digital part of it. All right, but so far this is how you do it. So for instance, I will be playing the notes, and then what channel is that coming out of? That's channel 1. All right, so if that's coming out of channel 1, that means that's part 1. So I will be able to change this to whatever I want to change it to. All right, this will be the MIDI part 1, basically. All right, so I'll be, instead of hitting the actual hardware synth, changing it, I can change it from here. All right, and once again, all you do is hit read. It will sync up the VST in the editor side of the Integra 7, and then you just record. You just record it back in, and make sure after you recorded it, you come and unarm it. That way, when you try to record your MIDI notes again, your audio recorder won't record. All right. Because if you have this enabled, it's going to also record the MIDI that you're synchronizing or putting down, and the audio here. So you want to be very mindful of what you're doing when you're hitting this arm over here, because this takes a lot of real estate out of your computer as far as space. You know, audio is still audio, and this is wave, and it's coming in at 24-bit. Well, actually, I got it coming in at 32-bit float. Once again, this concludes this video. Y'all got any questions, leave it in the comments. And happy mixing and making beats. Yours truly, the infamous DJ Rout 31 3rd.